Underlying love, beneath the surface it lies, in the whispers of secrets and unspoken ties, caught between the heart's gentle tug and the dance of romance, in the arms of love.
You are listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. Chapter 13, Part 2, A Towering Holiday Party. As the blizzard swirled violently atop the tower, a crazed Bentley cried,
"You've ruined everything. We were so close to the insurance money and escaping to California. Now you'll pay the price for your meddling."
He charged at Samuel with the knife raised.
"Get back, Elizabeth,"
Samuel warned, bracing with his pot lid. Suddenly, a shot cracked through the howling wind. Bentley's eyes went wide before he toppled over the railing out of sight. Elizabeth gasped. Behind where he'd stood was Mrs. Collins, holding a smoking pistol. The screech of tires on icy pavement rose from below. Squad cars and an ambulance with flashing lights ringed the tower base.
"He never could get anything done right,"
she muttered coldly. Turning the gun on Samuel, she hissed,
"But I always handle matters correctly. No mistakes this time."
Elizabeth and Samuel stood paralyzed. Just as Mrs. Collins's finger tightened on the trigger, a small voice pierced the night.
"Mommy, don't!"
Far below, little Amy in her pajamas clutched her teddy bear, surrounded by a crowd. Mrs. Collins faltered, anguish crossing her face.
"Mrs. Collins."
Samuel spoke gently, edging closer,
"It's over now. It's okay. Now let go of the gun."
tears welling in her eyes. Mrs. Collins finally lowered the shaking gun. Samuel gripped the barrel, and she released it into his hands. Just then, Officer Jameson could be heard talking on his police cruiser loudspeaker.
Come on, folks. Get down from this infernal tower before we all freeze to death."
Descending the ladder, Elizabeth glimpsed Bentley's motionless body being covered by a tarp. A sad fate for a corrupted soul. But as she reunited with Samuel and Betty below, joy replaced sorrow. Light had triumphed over darkness. Safely on the ground again, Officer Jameson moved to arrest Mrs. Collins.
"Ma'am, you're under arrest for the murder of Dr. Bentley."
But then, from the shadows, Detective Morris from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office and Worthington Police Chief Engel stepped forward.
"Officer Jameson, we need to come downtown to talk about your gambling issues and how you've handled this investigation,"
said Detective Morris. Jameson sputtered.
"But I owed Bentley money. What was I supposed to do?"
The detective glared.
"Uphold the law like you swore to do."
"You better do what the detective says, Jameson,"
said the glaring Chief Engel. Detective Morris turned to Elizabeth.
"That camera film of yours that Danny from the high school provided us cracked this case wide open. We've been building evidence against these snakes for some time now. Thank you, Miss Russo, for all your help."
Mrs. Collins was led away in handcuffs. Elizabeth turned to Samuel in weary relief.
"It's finally over. The long nightmare is finally over."
Betty walked over to the two and drew them both into a big hug.
"We sure lit a candle against all that darkness, but good one in the end, as I knew it would all along."
With the culprit bundled into a police car and Dr. Bentley's body being removed, Elizabeth suddenly cried.
"But what about little Amy?"
The detective tipped his hat reassuringly.
"Not to worry, ma'am, the girl's coming with me."
Samuel took Elizabeth's hand.
"And dinner's getting cold back at Betty's."
Trudging through the deepening snow, they returned to Betty's cozy house. though Harold's ashes were still scattered about from the urn breaking.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Betty.
Samuel said ruefully as he helped tidy up. But Betty just laughed heartily.
Are you kidding? Harold would have loved seeing some good fight. Nothing merrier than a brawl before Christmas.
Soon, they were gathered around the feast, now cooled, but still delicious. Raising his wine glass, Samuel proclaimed,
To dear friends in solving mysteries.
They clinked their glasses, camaraderie warming them more than any fire could. The cold weather continued relentlessly outside, but within those walls, all was snug and bright. Elizabeth gazed around at the twinkling lights on the tree, the remains of their meal, and Betty humming carols while she freshened up the cocoa. Here, on this holy night, was everything worth fighting for. Not riches or schemes, but love, faith, and fellowship with those who light our way through the shadows. After bidding Betty good night, Elizabeth and Samuel trudged through the deepening snow to her place.
Just stay here tonight. I don't want to be alone.
Elizabeth implored, still shaken by the harrowing ordeal. Samuel readily agreed. In his comforting embrace, she finally slept peacefully. The next morning, he dropped her off at school, thoughts still with little Amy and her uncertain future. At lunchtime, as the students excitedly left, a knock surprised Elizabeth. It was Detective Morris.
I just wanted to properly thank you for your critical help on this case.
He said sincerely. Elizabeth smiled.
Does this mean Mrs. Collins confessed everything?
She did. Framing the vagrant, the involvement in killing her husband, Dr. Bentley, killing Milkman Bailey, and trying to bribe Officer Jameson.
The detective shook his head.
Without you, the truth may never have come to light.
Elizabeth eagerly asked,
Has Jeff been released then?
Not yet, but I'm headed there now as soon as the judge signs off. Would you like to join me in informing him?
Elizabeth readily agreed. Principal Gentry happily took over her class, with him waving her off encouragingly. At the jail, the guard led Elizabeth and the detective to a small room. Minutes later, a bewildered Jeff was ushered inside. Overcome with emotion, Elizabeth cried,
You're free, Jeff. It's over. Mrs. Collins confessed to everything.
Disbelief, then elation, washed over Jeff's newly shaven, weathered face. He turned to the detective, who handed him discharge forms.
You're cleared of all charges, sir. Our apologies for the mistakes,
said Detective Morris. Jeff shook the man's hand vigorously before embracing a joyful Elizabeth. As they walked outside, she imagined his future now full of possibility and light. Detective Morris drove Elizabeth and Jeff back to Worthington, outside his humble shack near the rail yard.
I don't know how to repay your kindness, ma'am.
Jeff said humbly. Elizabeth smiled.
Well, you've cleaned yourself up nicely. Perhaps I could help you find steadier work at the red and white store.
Jeff tipped his worn cap.
God bless you, Miss Russo. You've given me back my life.
As they continued into the village, gentlemen tipped their hats to Elizabeth in thanks.
They know you were the one to help uncover the truth,
said Detective Morris. Elizabeth just blushed, unaccustomed to such recognition. Dropping her off and bidding the detective farewell, she went inside her quiet home, looking forward to some peace. Worthington was healing, emerging from darkness. They had not let evil prevail over good. Though shadows inevitably came, love shone all the brighter against that contrast. Tonight, all was calm, all was bright. Soon, Christmas arrived in Worthington. On that day, Elizabeth was relaxing at home when the phone rang. It was her mother calling from Cincinnati to wish her a Merry Christmas and to chat about her busy social calendar. Elizabeth smiled indulgently, though inwardly longing for a simpler life. After begging off her mother's dinner invitation, a knock came at the door. It was Samuel with a bouquet.
Merry Christmas, my darling.
He beamed, stomping the snow off his boots before entering. Elizabeth welcomed him in, simply content in his company. Another knock soon followed. A lawyer stood there, explaining he represented Mrs. Collins.
She wanted you to have this.
He said, handing Elizabeth a letter. Elizabeth gasped as she read Mrs. Collins's request for her to care for little Amy, since she had no other family left. Before she could respond, Amy herself bounded up the steps.
Mommy said I get to live with you,
she cried joyfully, hugging Elizabeth with her teddy bear tucked under one arm. Elizabeth turned to Samuel in shock, but he just smiled warmly.
Well, why don't you invite her in? It is Christmas after all.
As Amy came in, she gleefully shook a snow globe on the kitchen table. Elizabeth felt both deeply moved and overwhelmed by the sudden responsibility. Seeing her expression, Samuel squeezed her hand supportively.
We'll figure this out together,
he said. Elizabeth exhaled, knowing with him by her side, she could face any challenge. Though life was far from settled, on this Christmas day, love and hope had been renewed. The future seemed bright as the two of them watched Amy play happily by the fire, at last sheltered and in peace. After all, there was no more underlying love. It had now reached the surface on full display. The end.
Thank you for listening to Bradley Barkhurst's Underlying Love, a Worthington, Ohio mystery. We hope you enjoyed the story and thank you for tuning in. Be sure to take the time and visit Worthington, Ohio.
In the arms of love. Snow falling down, lights all around, Worthington town, feeling so profound. People gather round with smiles all aglow. It's swinging Christmas, let the good times flow. Frost on the ground, love in the air, a joyful sound filling everywhere. Trumpets blare, saxophones wail in Worthington, you can't help but inhale. Couples ice skate hand in hand, children can't wait, blinking snow and rain. The choir sings, harmonies ring, a swinging Christmas, oh what joy it brings.